Welcome everybody to this special webinar which will focus on how validation can boost your NPO's potential. This webinar will also focus on Validate for Good, a new online platform launched by Charities Aid Foundation Southern Africa, which helps NPOs become eligible for more local and international funding. Before we welcome our speakers, we'd like to play this clip from Mark Adelson, who does fundraising on behalf of the Hermanus Varsity Trust. In this clip, Mark shares the impact that validation through CAFSA had on this NPO.
This is Mark Adelson. I do fundraising on behalf of the Hermanus Varsity Trust, a new small NPO that registers students with accredited universities in South Africa, pays their fees, and then recruits mostly retired professionals to act as tutors to help them through their degree or certificate programs. I spent 25 years in the United States and know that it's very difficult to raise funds from overseas because potential donors only want to give funds to validated organizations in other countries. As we wanted to raise funds in the United States, I contacted Charities Aid Foundation America to find out what was necessary for validation. Not long after this, I was contacted by CAFSA. Evidently, an institution in the United States was interested in making a donation to the Hermanus Varsity Trust and wanted to know about our credentials. CAFSA said they would do the due diligence necessary to validate us, and if things turned out okay, we would get validation, which would enable us to get funds from the United States. I provided CAFSA with the necessary documentation, and they handled this smoothly, and the whole process was very quick. I think it was less than a week or so before we got approval, we were validated. This marks a significant turning point for us. With validation, two things can happen. With certain types of donations, the donor gets tax advantages in the US, and of course we're validated for donations from the United States. CAFSA handled the entire process smoothly and professionally. I'm very grateful to CAFSA for what they've done.
We'd like to thank Mark for that note, and we're now moving on to the start of our webinar, which will be introduced by Joanne Pohl. Joanne is the CAFSA chairperson and group CFO of iOCO.
Just thank you to everyone that has made the time to dial in today as we launch Validate for Good. I think it's especially apt given Freedom Day commemorated earlier this week, Workers' Day coming up this weekend, and that this platform really helps us realize Nelson Mandela's words. We can change the world and make it a better place, and it is in your hands to make a difference. In fact, Mike Adelson's message said that. And so maybe just a little bit of background on the journey so far for everyone that has joined the call. This month, literally 4 years ago in 2017, our CAFSA CEO, who will be meeting a little bit later, and those of you who have met her before know she is quite a, I suppose a dynamite comes in small packages, but in this case it has a broad impact. So Gill was attending our CAF Global Alliance CEOs meeting in London. She became aware there of two London-based website and design specialists. What they brought to the table really has an impact and will have an impact going forward, which we'll discuss today. It's a pro bono technology solution. In fact, it's a validations value proposition. Historically, we'd always been doing this, but manually, extremely time-consuming, albeit incredibly worthwhile. Gill brought back this concept, presented it to our board, and I cannot tell you the level of excitement that ensued from that day and onwards. We accepted the proposal, and we now have a tripartite agreement that has come to life today in the launch to you. That between CAFSA, CAF UK, and Doc 9. In essence, these are our three musketeers behind a solution for good. Far more complex than we had ever expected and much more time consuming, of course. The initial design and build phase took quite a bit of time. Generally, after extensive stress testing, because for us, this is important that it works first time and seamlessly for everyone, what we wanted was a user-friendly system that could deal with significant volumes. You've heard about the impact in Mike's note. Imagine what that could do if we had everyone powering forward at the same time. Wanted to pull together reports and in essence, use this platform to connect dots, collect dots, drive a seamless validation process that resulted in impact investing. So we saw a number of tweaks happen to the system you're going to be introduced to today. And in 2020, it was ready from a technical perspective. Couldn't have been more timely given the COVID-19 pandemic that kicked off and how much impactful giving would have an impact on society as we know it at large. So during this period, we are privileged to have worked with CAF UK, as our project manager. They contributed additional funding, they helped us iron out technical difficulties, and we're deeply grateful that today we celebrate your support on this and enabling the vision that was brought to the table in 2017 truly turned into reality. This project management component has now been brought in-house, completely self-sustaining with CAF Southern Africa, but continued support from our global partners and friends and the Alliance Network. So today we launch it to you, our esteemed NPOs, our continued and committed corporate partners. We've got local and international audiences on the call, and we've got our colleague Ted Hart from the US too. And with that, just Ted, good morning. I think it's barely 5 a.m. your side. I think it's important, good morning, that we also underpin why we are here. More and more, the purpose behind what we do calls us to action every single day. And this particular platform has benefits both for our clients as well as for the civil sector. I wanted just to flag that with you so you have it top of mind as we go through today's webinar. One, this results in increased funding to a sector that mitigates the risk and builds confidence amongst donors and beneficiaries. We saw the impact of COVID-19, continues to see the impact where we don't get funds to the right places at the right times. So increased funding is one. Protecting our sector from the threat of overregulation, and when I say that, incorporating contextual developments that take into account international and local regulatory risk, legal, and our various cultural environments in the development of an effective program. So we pull it all together under this remit. We help build trust with the civil society and for a long-term basis. And that comes in small incidences of regular connection. So this platform, and hence the stress testing, makes sure every iteration and every engagement builds on that trust. We deliver what we say we can and what we do. Outside of that is easier and it's more effective process for NPOs. You heard that fairly easy from Mike and the impact going forward from an education perspective and the academic side. So outside of the benefit for civil society, there are a number of benefits for you, our clients on the call. We have an expert team in-house with validation and risk knowledge. We've got very established and robust processes. As mentioned, this has taken 4 years to come to life and to be launched today. And this online platform makes the process easier for yourselves as much as it does for our NPOs. It's cost effective because it allows us to service at scale. We do want to see the continued impact of giving come through quite substantially. And it's an integrated model, so we can reduce overhead costs for you too. So there really is a benefit all around. The more we get, the more we can give. And there's access to leading global practice, our CAF Global Alliance, in terms of how we prioritize and pioneer development in this space, the validation services across the globe and this country and the continent, and how it develops through emerging markets with local on-the-ground networks that CAF Southern Africa will leverage, and the expertise and offerings we can leverage more broadly too. So those are some of the key advantages that this particular platform brings to bear today. And in fact, in terms of Validate for Good, in essence, it's a quick, effective process that ensures your donations go to the NPOs, that they make a real difference, that they unlock greater resources for the sector, and to future-proof what we're looking at in terms of the NPO side and our corporates as we make a difference together. We've gone through Mark Adelson's fundraising components around the Hermanus University Trust. We've seen the impact of getting foreign monies into the country and what it does on the ground. So thank you to you, Mark, for sharing. And now with that, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Ted Hart. As I mentioned earlier, it's an early start, and I still think, Ted, what a great way to start your day, and thank you. But as the president and CEO of CAF America and CAF Canada, and congratulations ahead of the 1st of May when you'll be CEO of CAF International too. Thank you for the early start. Thank you for your continued support and commitment to our CAFSA vision, and in particular as a strategic partner and sounding board and friend as we make a difference together. Ted will share much more detail with you. He's famous for his 3 R's, which I can't wait to put onto your radar, and also share more around our expedited grants place. So for that, from my side, thank you for joining us. And to Ted and team, welcome, and over to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And Joe and Gill, thank you for your friendship. CAF America is better and stronger here in the United States and with CAF Canada, having our friends in South Africa. I believe there's a couple of slides that we can share with you. And the first slide, as Joe previewed, is about the 3 R's. And the three R's are three key principles that guide everything that CAF America does in the cross-border space. And the only way that we're able to represent so many large donors in the United States and Canada is because we're able to provide to them validated charities and a strong, trusted program for moving charitable dollars to 110 countries around the world, giving our donors the opportunity to receive a tax receipt for their contribution and to rest assured that the funds will be used for the purpose in which it was given. The first of our three R's is regulatory compliance. This is a complicated process because in the United States, as many countries, we have many laws that govern philanthropy, and in particular, specific regulations that help guide international or cross-border giving. That's only part of the story, however. We must also be compliant in the 110 countries that we contribute to and the laws in those countries. And I'll come back to that because that's part of why this partnership with CAF Southern Africa is so very important to donors in the United States and Canada. The second of our R's is risk management. Giving internationally is risky inherently, and certainly working with unscrupulous charities and individuals who do not have charitable intent and do not intend to use funds for the purpose in which it was given is a very big problem for donors in the United States and Canada. So having a strong program that we can stand behind and having partners like CAF Southern Africa that stand with us and have very high standards allows us to represent these donors and allows us to make sure that we are managing the inherent risk of international grant making. And the third very important R is reputation protection. Donors want to do good. Donors want to make a difference. They want to be impactful in their giving. But the last thing that they want to do is to have bad news come back because of their contribution having been used for purposes in which it was not intended. And so making sure that we understand and have deep due diligence, validation of the charities, the individuals who are running those charities, the individuals who will be managing the funds that are entrusted to them are extremely important. So all three R's combined provide us the ability and the platform to validate partners, work with partners like CAF Southern Africa. With that in mind, and with CAF Southern Africa very much committed to the three R's, we move on to my next slide, and that is specifically what we call our Expedited Grant Program. What allows us to continue to grow and to continue to represent so many charities now in South Africa, is because we have partners around the world like CAF Southern Africa. I mentioned here in the UK, our partner CAF UK allows us to very quickly give in a very three R's buttoned up way to charities throughout Scotland, Ireland, or Northern Ireland, and England. In Australia, our good partner, Good to Give, does very much the same work in validating charities and moving money in a very safe and secure way. And then today, we're able to now launch our partnership in such a strong way with the platform Validate for Good, strengthening and supporting, providing the backbone, if you will, to the work of CAF Southern Africa in partnership with CAF America. So our representation of donors now opens up South Africa, and with CAF Southern Africa validating charities and being committed to regulatory compliance, risk management, and reputation protection, we now have opened up even more opportunities for donors to support charities throughout South Africa. And I thank you again for my time with you today.
Great. Thanks so much, Ted. And we're now going to be doing a Q&A between Simphiwe Mtetwa, the editor-in-chief of CSR News South Africa, and he'll be interviewing Gill Bates, who is the Chief Executive Officer of CAF Southern Africa. Hi, Simphiwe. You just need to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted now. Hello, Gill. Hello, Ted.
Good morning.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Morning. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Gill, I know you for quite some time. We met 2 years ago, and so I'm going to start really and dive into the questions here so that we can make sure that we cover as much as possible for the NGOs. So what is validation, and what does it mean to me as an NGO, and why do I need it?
Good morning to you, Simphiwe, and all colleagues on the call. I think as Joe and Ted have both stressed, validations is a core imperative in respect of the philanthropy and donation-making process. I think we live and operate in a world where we are facing unprecedented times, and there is also a trust deficit, not only amongst government, private sector and civil society. So for us, validations really is a core imperative in respect of risk mitigation and providing comfort to the reputation of both the donor and the recipient organizations. So this offering has been a traditional offering at CAFSA. We've been in existence for over 20 years, and validations is one of the core value propositions of CAFSA, which facilitates the flow of much needed funding in a quick and transparent manner, but one that complies with governance and rules in respect of all of our regulatory authorities in South Africa, as well as our partners in the UK and CAF America and CAF Canada.
Fantastic, fantastic. So when I heard Joel speak, I think she said that you kind of were in the UK, and this is how the meeting, the validation platform kind of come about. What's the output at the end of the day for me as an NGO? I have now signed up to be part of this. What can I expect to get out of the validation process?
Simphiwe, thank you for the question. As a validated organization on the CAF database, as Ted said, you now become eligible to receive potential funding, not only from local corporates, but also from international funders. And I think we are really, really excited about the Expedited Grants Program, which is our partnership with CAF America. And I think Mark demonstrated how this partnership has come to life in terms of monies being transferred from a donor in the United States through CAF America, which then re-granted to CAF Southern Africa, and we in turn re-granted onto the nominated beneficiary. However, the final part of the process was that beneficiary had to be validated. So we had ticked all the boxes up until that point, and once the organization was successfully validated, the funds flowed immediately. So I think that really being validated makes NGOs not only visible, it speaks to their eligibility as well. And really, as Ted said, open doors to both local and international donors.
Fantastic. Okay, so does South African NPOs or the CSI sector, for example, are they a according to you? And if not, how do we get the industry familiar with validation?
Simphiwe, I think in our practice, which has been about 20 years at CAFSA, we see a significant level of awareness in respect of validation and due diligence. We think our NPOs are extremely aware of what is required. And increasingly, donors obviously are seeking a higher return on investment from an impact perspective. And so now monitoring, evaluation and reporting, more so than ever before, I would suggest, is a critical requirement. And this provides a level of comfort for corporates and minimizes risk for all parties. I think as a charity or a non-profit ourselves, we are vulnerable to issues of money laundering and the sponsorship of terrorist activities. But our guidance and our governance and compliance safety nets make sure that these funds are transferred to where they need to go, and very quickly.
Okay, so based on that, is CAFSA so can I get CAFSA to ask for funding for me? Are you a fundraiser for NPOs or not?
Simphiwe, thank you. It's a very important question, and I'm really glad that you've raised it. CAFSA is an intermediary, and we operate at the intersection between philanthropy and civil society via the South African non-profit sector. CAFSA is cause neutral and as such does not conduct any individual fundraising activities on behalf of NPOs. Our primary purpose is to grow charitable giving in our country and abroad. And we champion growing giving via means of cash, goods, and volunteering time. So effectively, our role as an intermediary, Simphiwe, means that we connect funders to NPOs. And our international funders, as we saw with Mark and Ted, they were specifically interested in the field of education, being the sector, and in the Western Cape being the province. So we were able to join those dots and make those connections. So the short answer is no, CAFSA does not do individual fundraising, but we are an enabler and we are an implementing partner, and we can connect donors and non-profit organizations.
Fantastic. I think I had a chance to go through onto the platform last night and just really test it out. And I think for those who don't know what the platform or the URL is, I think it's cafvalidateforgood.org. And when I left the platform, I was left with two things. Of course, it's a very simple platform. You walk in there and you can, see the kind of documentations that you require to submit. So when I left the platform, I was left with one or two questions, which I'm going to ask. One was, okay, great. Now I've went in there. So for example, there are, I think, 8 documentations that are required there. I'm an NGO. I don't have all 8. You have a help desk on the platform. If I went to the help desk, what's the kind of help that I can expect from the help desk? Based on those documentation, and then after that, I'm going to come back to another question that basically deals with the required documentation, right?
Okay, perfect, Simphiwe. Thank you for that. And you are correct. There is a list of required documents, and these typically would be your audited financial statements, tax clearance certificates. We'd obviously need to understand how your board is comprised. Obviously, we would look at your relationship with all the regulatory authorities in South Africa. We would look at your registration. You might be registering as an NPO with PBO status. Obviously, being South Africa, we are mindful of broad-based Black economic empowerment. So we would want to understand what the contribution level of the South African non-profit organization is. We also look at registration with CSRNEWSSA. And obviously, we would need proof of banking details and annual reports. So having said that, Simphiwe, that has been our requirement from a governance perspective in South Africa for decades. And it served us well historically. However, at the onset of COVID-19, which hit our shores in March last year, we had donors and individuals and corporates who opened up their hearts and their pockets to supporting non-profit organizations, but they quite simply were not able to comply with our regulations and our processes. So it was a huge learning curve for us because, as I say, these processes had served us well for 20 years, but they did not help us during COVID. And that was one of the very quick lessons that we had to learn. Monies were available, and because our NPOs that were nominated, we needed to get a hold of them and to commence a due diligence process very, very quickly. We cut out the requirements that we thought were not critical, but we really, really battled to reach these organizations who were doing great work on the ground. And so we realized we needed to make this process more streamlined, more efficient and effective, and more inclusive, because the reality is, I think COVID has really impacted most negatively on the poorest of the poor. So we did not want to design a system that would exclude anybody. And I think at CAFSA, one of the crucial components to add is that while this is very much tech and a platform, CAFSA is very, very hands-on. So we will absolutely make sure that we are the human face of the portal. Our staff are on ready standby at CAFSA offices to assist both with technical issues and as well as the compilation of documentation. We have good relationships with the regulatory authorities, and because we exist primarily to support civil society, we will be extending a helping hand to make sure that this platform is as user-friendly and as inclusive as possible, which is what the intent originally was.
Fantastic. Thanks. Thank you very much. I think you answered a bit of my question, because I don't know if you know, but last year I wrote an article that was really looking at all of these kind of requirements, which I still think are tedious. I mean, asking a small black NGO in deep rural area for a financial statement is like asking them if they can buy a Mercedes-Benz with 5 rand, you know. So at least I think some of the things you've kind of answered. But now let me jump into the next session of what does this mean to me as a corporate? Why, for example, why would I need that validation, that NGO to have the validation certificate? Let's say I'm a CSI manager, for example, of Old Mutual.
That's a good question, Simphiwe, and I think there is going to be a voice note recording from one of our corporate clients who really has championed giving and corporate social investment and volunteering from their perspective. So we will be hearing from our colleague Brenda at Sasol, who will show the value proposition of the validations process. CAFSA manages the payroll giving program of Sasol, and that includes the validations process. So we are able to transfer monies and the match from the company and the employee into the validated organization of choice. So I think it's really, really critical for corporates who themselves have the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Scorecard requirements to meet. And we make it easy and simple. So Sasol, for example, called us to help with an emergency allocation of COVID-19 PPE. We also help them with the distribution of hand sanitizers. And also, I think you might recall a few years back, Simphiwe, the continent was struck by a tropical cyclone Idai. It presented both a humanitarian and a health crisis. And so we were able to get the monies quickly and the goods quickly out to those territories most desperately impacted by the crisis.
Fantastic. I think before we, I had another question which I wanted to ask. But for the purpose of time, let's maybe go ahead and maybe I think Gareth is going to play the validation video from Ms. Brenda Nkosi Bakari.
I'm going to talk to you about why NPO validations are important for the corporate sector. Firstly, as the corporate, we are required to comply to a number of governance and statutory requirements, both in South Africa and globally. And one of those is to ensure that all the corporates, the service providers, as well as non-governmental organizations that we work with are free from bribery, corruption, as well as sanctions. So one of the things that we have to do to ensure that the non-governmental organizations and non-profit organizations that we work with have been validated is to conduct a due diligence. And the due diligence gives us information about what the company is or what the NGO is, what it does, who it funds, but also how it manages itself and who is involved. So some of those things are important for us to manage the risk. And we're managing the risk both for ourselves as a company, but also for you as an organization, because we want to ensure that whoever that we fund, whoever that we give to, has the right to receive the funds that we are giving, but also is going to utilize them in the correct manner. And where there are problems or where we find that there are gaps in the systems of the NPOs and the NGOs that we are working with, we have systems that we assist them to be able to get them to a point where their validations are on point and other companies are able and willing to fund them. So if you as an NPO or NGO need to understand what is it that you need for you to be validated, you can engage companies like ourselves, but also you can engage institutions like CAFSA that will assist you to know how you need to be validated. I hope this is important and helpful to you to understand why it is important for each and every organization or NPO to be validated in order.
One last thing, do you have any practical insight and tips for NPOs who wish to be validated? Maybe not one last thing, but one, Gareth, how are we looking time-wise?
Yes, yeah, we're still good on time. So yeah, we've still got at least another 25 minutes to go.
Okay, great stuff. So I'll take that question, Simphiwe, thank you. And maybe I'll also ask my colleague Ted to just share, experiences from his end, particularly during the COVID-19 period. So I would love Ted to share with us a little bit about the incredible work that CAF America and CAF Canada are engaged in. But in respect of your question, Simphiwe, obviously CAFSA is very eager to assist those NGOs that are seeking help and support. And as I said previously, while the focus might be on technology, CAFSA is mindful of the strategic intent of this platform. And as I said, the intent is to be inclusive and to assist as many NGOs as possible. We are also very happy at our help desk to provide technical support, but also provide advice in respect of the types of documents that we require. We have a fully fledged and very professional finance department who engage with all the regulatory authorities and who are willing and able to support nonprofit organizations in terms of getting onto our database. So there's a help desk, but there's also a voice and somebody listening over the phone. So if anybody wants to call in or email us, we are ready to be at your service during this difficult time. But perhaps I could also ask Ted, just for your insights on the year that was.
Yeah, well, certainly the year that was, as you raised the point, Gill, so many donors want to make a difference and they see the need all over the world. But the concern is, as was just mentioned in the audio clip from Cecil, am I giving to a legitimate charity? Am I giving to a charity that has the capacity to do the things that I want accomplished with the funds and to do great good? This is what donors want to do. I did want to just emphasize for your listeners of this important webinar today that no donor in the United States can give and receive a tax receipt without validation. So this entire process is absolutely required if you're going to attract any funds from the United States and Canada. And there's a great amount of money that is given all over the world, including in South Africa, but it has to be given in very specific ways. So what we appreciate so much about our partnership with CAF Southern Africa is their expertise and their many years of completing validation of this sort. And as Gill said, and was mentioned by our esteemed moderator here, it has been tedious work. It has been very difficult work. It has been a lot of paperwork, which is not just difficult for the staff of CAF Southern Africa, but is quite difficult for every charity who has to then comply in that way. By moving to this online platform, by adding this efficiency, as Gill mentioned, this opens up the door for so many other charities to become part of that international network of charities that become available to donors. So telling your story, giving your mission an opportunity to have life on an international stage is really the true measure of success of Validate for Good. And we're so pleased that this is now available for South African charities, because again, as I said, no American donor is going to receive a tax receipt without strong validation, and that's what the synced up effort between CAF America, CAF Canada, and CAF Southern Africa now offers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ted. I think with that note, we've got some questions from quite a number of our delegates who are joining us, and we should welcome them all. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to welcome everybody. So welcome everybody who's joining us for this conversation. And we're sorry that we didn't welcome you at the beginning of the conversation. But I've got a question that comes from Kate Jacobs. And she asks, she says, Kate from Africa Food for Thought here. We are currently in the process of renewing our validation directly with CAF America. Does this new platform affect that validation? And is it still worthwhile for us to be validated on both platforms?
I can take that from the CAF America perspective. That's a very good question, very insightful question. And the answer is that you can become validated in either way. But what we think is so powerful about this platform at CAF Southern Africa is, of course, they're in country and they understand you and they're available in your time zone. So the ability for you to have a friend in South Africa, understand the validation process, and should there be any issues, help you with those proper answers. Now, of course, my team at CAF America would seek to do the same thing. And we do that on a global scale, and we work with charities around the world. So the simple answer is that you can become eligible in the United States and Canada by simply working with CAF America if you wish. However, you now can streamline that process by becoming eligible through Validate for Good, which automatically will make you eligible in the United States. So I think there's a big value in that. And again, there's nothing like having a friend in country who understands all of the processes, who can help you walk through that process if you're not so sure that you understand the process.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I have just a few more questions that I want to bring up that are coming from our guests, delegates. I've got Lindsay Sherman asked the question, what is the cost to the NPO and NGOs and NPCs to participate? I suppose it's saying to participate. What's the cost for an NGO really to be validated?
I can take that one, Simphiwe, and the short answer is that the cost of the validation process for an NPO is 500 Rand. And in some instances, we get requests from corporate donors, and for our corporate colleagues, the amount is 900 Rand.
Okay, fantastic. So it's a 900 once-off renewable every 12 months, or how long does this 500 Rand keep us going for?
Keeps us going for 2 years. So the validation is good for a period of 2 years.
Okay, brilliant. All right, one more question that I've got coming here from our wonderful delegates. Samantha Barnard asked, what is the size of the funders directory, i.e. how many funders are currently using this validation tool?
It's a very good question. Obviously, this is a very new platform for CAFSA. So, as I said, we have a number of blue chip corporate entities who we assist through our various programs. We have Give As You Earn clients, which I explained previously is a payroll giving program. We also manage the CSR funds of various corporates. We manage private family foundations, and we're just also high net worth individuals. So we have a host of donors and partners who we partner with in order to deliver CAFSA's mission. And obviously our primary mission at CAFSA is to grow charitable giving. So we really are, available for all South African corporates and foreign donors, as Ted mentioned, to make this process streamlined and be efficient and effective. But mostly we are primarily, concerned about civil society, but increasingly we are getting referrals from corporate donors who want to help, as Ted said. but who are, concerned. Maybe CSI is not their primary business. So they really want to make sure that their contribution is managed properly and effectively. And that is a offering from CAFSA, which we have done for over 20 years. And I'm really thrilled to see the response from corporate South Africa, as well as family foundations who really have stepped up since the advent of the crisis, and have helped us to pivot and to be nimble in respect of getting monies out quickly. So we ourselves, as a non-profit organization, we needed to pivot. We had to understand and plan how we could work from home. And there again, I must thank Ted, who assisted us with that process. We in South Africa had always worked at the office. So Ted provided resources to assist with data so that our colleagues could work from home in safety. And we also needed, as I say, to re-look at our very stringent and difficult and maybe impractical, dare I say, requirements. So we've learned a fortune ourselves. We've also learned that we need to make sure that our organizations, our charities, are what we call donor ready. And I wrote an article for the Wits Business School, who wanted to know what was the reality on the ground during COVID. And I'm pleased to say that article was accepted and has been published. And I think part of our Global Alliance membership, also a great part of that is sharing, learnings and challenges in country. And although our mission as CAF global and international is the same, we obviously operate in different geographies, and there are difficult and different problems and challenges that we have to address. So it's been a learning curve for CAFSA, but I'm super proud of the partnerships that we've managed to negotiate. As Ted says, it's always great to have a friend, and Ted has been a friend to CAF Southern Africa since the very moment I met him in London a number of years ago. And he's a true friend. He's not a fair weather friend. Ted is always there to bounce stuff off. And that's a wonderful thing as CAFSA, to be part of a global brand. And I think that's what differentiates us from probably similar organizations in our field. I think I can say with confidence, we are the only one with a global brand. So we have access to the best minds, the best thinking, international resources, strategy, policy, consulting, etc.
Yeah,
Gill, this might, if I could jump in, this might be a good time to just share with all of your listeners that the other benefit to being validated on Validate for Good is that your name will then become part of CAF America's database of eligible charities. Now, we also do not do fundraising, neither does CAF Southern Africa. However, donors can then find you in that database, and they can then advise gifts to you. And if you're not in that database, they won't find you. So that's an added benefit. And I am taking a peek over in your chat room here. I hope you don't mind. And Kate Jacobs, I hope you don't mind that I share. Kate has put 2 and 2 together here and realized that it's cheaper to become eligible from the Validate for Good platform than going directly to CAF America. Different scale, different economies. And for us, it's just as good. So we really do want to encourage you to become validated in a way that is most meaningful and most helpful to you. But we want you to know that Validate for Good certainly has CAF America's stamp of approval.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I've got a question that I really, in fact, when I went onto the platform yesterday, I started filling in documents and and I thought halfway, I was like, okay, so what if I don't want to fill in the whole document and I want to stop halfway? You know what I mean? Like maybe I'll carry on tomorrow. There's too much documentation that's required. And so Titi Sachobela is asking a very, it's the same question that I had in my mind yesterday, which while I was filling in the document, she says, once you start an application, can you save it and go back and complete once you have all information?
Yes, and the answer is absolutely. We understand that these things take time and effort and concentration. So we have built that into the platform. So you may, come in and out and complete, at your leisure. There's no problem with that at all.
Okay, fantastic. We've got a lot more questions that we have here. Maybe I'll throw in this last one from Lindsay Hansen. Hold on, I'll just want to see here. I think that Ted answered that question already, so I won't go there. I've got something from Bev here. Let me see, Bev Goldman says, how does CAF publicize the details of the NPOs in a way that all the potential donors can see them and decide which to assist? In terms of the South African platform, I think Ted's already answered that in the American platform. In the South African platform, how do I then, once I'm validated, I'm on the platform, how in South African terms does that help me to publicize what I'm doing and so on and so forth to the donors / funders in the country?
Thank you, Bev. It's a lovely question. And in fact, storytelling that Ted referred to, just telling the stories of the wonderful NPOs in South Africa and the incredible work they are doing on the ground is a core part of CAFSA's strategy and communication rollout plan. We've realized that it's hugely important that we tell our stories. We tell the stories not only of the corporates, but of the non-profit organizations. And I think CAFSA has been rather shy in respect of telling our stories. I think we, together with our fellow NPOs, are so busy on the ground doing the hard work that what we want to do for those NGOs is to prioritize them and to raise their brand awareness and to get the stories out of there. So that is a critical part of our thought leadership component. Inviting our nonprofits onto webinars such as this or roundtable discussions, really just including the NPO world and profiling the incredible work that the NPO sector has done for years and years. I think those of us will remember the incredible role that nonprofits played in the changing of the apartheid government to a democracy. Civil society was a very loud voice, and we continue to hold government accountable as civil society, as we hold ourselves accountable. So I think when you partner with CAFSA, you will see that we have incredible colleagues around the world, and we are wanting to tell your story and to put your story out there and really just show the world, showcase the incredible work that you are doing in South Africa. And for that, I thank you.
Fantastic. I have one more question or so, or well, not one more, but I've tons, but I'm just trying to sift through to make sure that I ask the most, Lynn's, this one maybe I'll ask Ted to maybe answer this one. I've got a Lindsay says, okay, so I'm being now funded by an organization in the US or in Canada, and they come through CAF. Does that mean that is there an administration fee to that particular sort of like intermediary connection?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. I did see that question in the chat room as well. There is a grant administration fee for grants being made from the United States and Canada to charities around the world, including South Africa. This fee is paid by the donor, and it is paid typically as part of the grant, but sometimes the donor at their own choosing can choose to pay that fee separately. There is never a grant administration fee charged to the charity who is receiving the grant.
Oh, okay, fantastic. I think that answers the question. We've got 8 minutes left, so I have to be mindful of time. But just in closing, before I ask Gill to give to kind of thank everybody, I was just working it out in my head how much 500 Rand over 24 months costs, and it comes up to just for NPOs that need this kind of validation. In fact, maybe I should ask this question. So now I'm validated, and I have an email address, and I'm simphiwe@gmail.com. Do I have like a signature that kind of says Simphiwe's foundation is validated? You know what I mean? So that I have this, I don't know, like an emblem or something that goes along with my validation. Is there something like that?
Absolutely. There absolutely is, Simphiwe. We will send you the certificate to prove to your donors that you are accredited and validated with CAF Southern Africa.
Fantastic. Oh, all right. And also, hopefully I can have it on my signature as well, because, a lot of companies, I mean, yeah, I can send, a few will ask for my name, but those that don't ask for my name, I can always, when I'm sending an email, still kind of have that information, because, you know, some people see my email today, but can only respond in a year. Oh yeah, what was that company that I saw? And in closing, I want to just say to our listeners and viewers that according to the costs, it's 20 Rand 83 cents per month over 24 months. If you're an NGO, that's all it takes for you to have that validation certificate. And if you're in corporate, it's only 37 Rand 50 cents. So that you have to pay per month over the 24 months. But I think with that said, there is a lot more that I wanted to discuss with the platform, but I think people, when you go into the platform, you'll be able to see what it has available to you and how you can navigate it. It's a very simple platform. It's validateforgood.org. So it's CAF, validate for the number 4. And so it's the number 4, good.org. And then you'll be able to walk in there. It gives you the 7, sort of like, I think it's 7 or 8. Immediately when you come onto the platform, it's got like 8 sort of like requirements, which I'm sure CAF will help you through in case you don't have all of those documents. And obviously, we've answered the question that if you come into the platform and you don't have all the documents and you filled in halfway, you can come back later and complete the application form or send the information. So with that, Ted, I'd like to thank you very much for being awake. I'm not sure what time it is in the US. I think it's like 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
Just approaching 6 a.m.
Oh, it's approaching 6 a.m. Oh, all right. So you've been up quite early this morning. And
Yes.
so I don't know if I just can ask both you and Gill to give a vote of thanks. And that's pretty much it for the day.
Thank you very much, Simphiwe, and it's a great privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. And also, just to your point, today is a watershed day in the history of CAFSA, but obviously this is the start of new beginnings. So this is not simply an event in itself. We will be rolling out a number of other parallel events. So please look out on our social media platforms for what we have planned for you. And as we move to close, colleagues, I wanted to thank all of you who have supported us as we arrived at this happy day today. For starters, Enonic and Dot9, the London-based companies who designed, constructed, tested and retested the platform on a pro bono basis. We are really appreciative of that. Obviously to CAF UK for the project management of the initiative, which is now being transferred to South Africa. Of course, our great friends, Ted at CAF America and CAF Canada, for incredible support in respect of the new CAFSA Validate for Good portal, and of course for the Expedited Grants program. Ted reached out to me a while ago to say we need to be working more closely with you. And I must thank him for being an incredible friend to us and to assisting CAFSA to be eligible to receive foreign funding. The CAFSA team, which is small, it's lean and mean, we've set to punch above our weight. I want to thank my colleagues for putting in the long hours, as well as a very dedicated CAF board of directors. CAFSA's corporate and non-profit clients and partners, we give you our grateful thanks for supporting us so that we can continue to support the NPO sector. We must thank Lauren and Gareth from Fox Street Communications for hosting this event for us, as well as Simphiwe, Editor-in-Chief of CSR News South Africa. We are going to be working very closely with Simphiwe to profile CAFSA as a thought leadership editor and contributor this year. So we will be featuring your stories in our contribution. And colleagues, last but by no means least, our thanks must go to you, our audience. Thank you for taking time from your very busy schedules to participate in today's landmark event. Please keep up your excellent work and please do stay safe and well at home. Thank you so much.
Ted?
Yes, well, thank you for allowing me to join you today for such an important launch of this very consequential new opportunity for South African charities. And I'll say I always cherish every moment that I have in South Africa. And one of the truly horrible things about COVID is it's kept me away from South Africa even longer than I would like. So I do look forward to returning spending more time with our friends at CAF Southern Africa. And I want to encourage all the charities in South Africa to consider becoming validated and making yourself available to international donors.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. For more information on this, in case you didn't get the long URL, you just go to cafsouthernafrica.org. So it's just CAF Southern Africa, CAF southernafrica.org. Thank you very much. And Gareth, you can take over from here.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. It was lovely having you here, and we will be sending a clip of this video probably tomorrow via email to everybody who RSVP'd. And thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, colleagues. Take care. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.